Vajra Sattva Samayama Vajra Sattva Tenopa Didro Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Supo Kayo Bawa Anurakto Me Bawa Sarvasit Karma Sutsame Citam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajra Mame Munsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahum Pe Eho Shude Shude Soha Yam Ho Shude Ha Ram Ho Shude Shude Soha Lam Ho Shude Shude Soha Bam Ho Shude Shude Soha Eyam Ram Lam Bam Shude Shude Soha Om Muni Muni Maha Shakya Munye Soha Oye Dharma Hetum Pra Yawa Data Teshan Chayo Niroda Yevam Vadi Mahashrama Naye Soha Onchanam Tamche Gyule Jung Tegyu Deshin Shekpe Sung Gyula Gokpa Kaimba Gechon Chembe Deke Sung Gechon Chembe Jingilo Gechon Chembe Ngodrup Sol Gechon Chembe Trashisho. Okay, third point. Nöchu dikpe kangwe tse kenge janjo lam dogyo chela kanto gom tu char jorwa shiden tabki chok che. Transforming adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. When the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform each adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. Apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. The supreme method is accompanied by the four practices. So, when the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, with negativities, this means that when the environment, which is the external circumstances, and the beings that are living there, people, animals, whoever, spirits, it doesn't matter who, when they overflow with the result of our negative actions, which means when the circumstances are very adverse, which means we have a hostile environment, the people, the beings around us are hostile with us and violent and so on, We need to transform this situation into the path to enlightenment. How do we do that? There are two main ways to do it. First one is that we need to understand that the world around us is actually a mirror of our own inner state. Which means, if I don't have anger, there will be no circumstance that will make me get angry. I can even act strongly sometimes to stop something, but it doesn't mean that I feel angry. It's two different things. But the point very clear is, if I don't have anger, it doesn't matter what happened, I will not feel anger. If I don't have jealousy, it doesn't matter in what situation I find myself, I will not feel jealousy. And like this we can go on and on. So what happens is that whenever we have these emotions, it's not the fault, it's not the actual circumstance, it's not the actual situation. Even though normally we are ready to point our finger and say, yes, I know it's not good to get angry, but if this person didn't say this, if that didn't happen, I would not get angry. I don't know. In the sense that if it was not for this, it would be for something else. So, what happened is that if I get angry, it's because I have anger inside myself, and the circumstance is just a situation that makes it to come out. Okay? So what we need really to observe, understand, is that the world around us, it functions towards us like a mirror, like making the reflection of what we are inside. It's similar to the fact also when there was a monk doing a retreat, and one master came to him and asked, oh, my dear monk, what are you making retreat about? And he said, oh, I am meditating on patience. He said, oh, how wonderful. And then he spit on his face and he spat on it, and he hit his face. And then this monk wanted to react badly against him. And then the Lama just stepped back and said, remember, without an object of anger, you can never practice patience. Which means, how can I practice patience? By being in front of a situation that normally I will get angry and not react with such anger. And slowly train myself differently. So what happened is that the opportunities that we have around, which are the circumstances that we have around, are the true opportunities for us to know ourselves better. Paponka Rinpoche, in some lammering, he used to say, the poisons are easily eliminable when they manifest at the surface. Similar, if we have poison inside the blood, it's very difficult to take away the poison when it's flowing within the blood. When the poison comes out in the form of an infection on the skin, yes, it's painful, but then you can take it out. Okay. So what happens is that it's like we can have an arrow and bow, and I can be very skilled how to shoot an arrow. Okay. And I can know very well how to shoot the arrow, and I can shoot it perfectly. But if I don't know where is the target, it will be no benefit. I can have the best medicine, I can buy the whole pharmacy. But if I don't know what sickness I have, it will be of no use. The medicine only becomes medicine when it is applied to the sickness. Up to then, it's just a substance. And if applied in the wrong place, it can become poison. The same poison, applied in the right place, can become medicine. So, similar to that, if we have a light, we can have a very beautiful and strong light to take away darkness. But if we point it where it's already clear, and we do not point where is our shadow, we will never take the shadow away. So it's very important to recognize our own shadows, our own defilements, and there we need to apply the antidote. So the antidote must be applied in the same level of the poison. That's very important. Let's make one example. What we just talked before about impermanence. We know that phenomenon, intellectually, we know that phenomena around us, composed phenomena, are impermanent. We know that. Everything that we look, everything that we touch, we see, we know that it is impermanent. Okay, we don't need so much conceptual understanding to understand it's impermanent. It's there, okay? It's quite easy to analyze it and understand it. But is it understanding enough? Once I have understood that the flower is impermanent, does that mean that when I see the flower it appears to me as being impermanent? No. I still see it as if it was permanent. It still appears to me in that way. It's similar to the fact when you understand that you should not get angry, will that make you never to get angry again? No. Because the understanding of not getting angry has nothing to do directly with the actual experience and the deep emotion of anger. It's two different things. So, we need to go on the same level. So for instance, let's take the example of impermanence. First, I analyze the impermanence of the flower. I see, okay, the flower is impermanent because of this and that, cause and conditions, blah, 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 blah. Then, after that, I just observe the flowers and I let my mind flow naturally until the moment where the mind that grasped at it as if it was permanent appears. The flower appears to me as if it was permanent, and I believe in it. When this mind manifests, that's when I need to come out and say, no, it's not like that. Until I generate not the concept, but the feeling inside the flower is impermanent, and I stick to it. Then I am applying the antidote where the poison lies. So it's so beautiful and important to see our own shadows, to see our own defilements. And there's nothing wrong with that. We are here, we are in samsara, we are here to learn, we are here to grow. We are not supposed to be a Buddha already. Nothing wrong with it. It's like when we have a diagnosis, it's so good to have a diagnosis. We may get, sometimes we get very worried and very sad because we had a bad diagnosis. Oh, if the diagnosis is right, wonderful. At least now I can do the right cure. It's not because I didn't have the diagnosis that the sickness was not there. So, to know well the problem, to acknowledge well the problem, to be well aware of the problem is already 50% of the solution, if not more. Very often we see with this sickness, we have people that do thousands of different treatments and they never get better. Not because the treatments are bad, it's because they don't have the right diagnosis. And this is quite serious very often. I know people that took years and years and years to get the right diagnosis. And when they have it, then it goes smooth. So we need to know where is the problem. We need to apply the antidote where the problem lies, not somewhere else. Otherwise we get a little bit similar to the story of the man and the key. No? Making it short, the man lost his keys and he's looking for it under the light on a narrow road. And then we reach the road and we see him looking for the keys under the light. It's like if we are here and then we find him in front somewhere here outside looking where there is some light and he's looking. And then we ask, can I help you? You say, yes, I lost my key. Then we go to look and we never find the key. And we ask, where did you lose your key? Oh, down the road. Why are you looking for the key here? Because there is too dark. Here at least there is some light. Okay? Looking for the solution in a different place where the problem lies, it's useless. Applying the solution far away from the problem is useless. So we need to know our faults. We need to see our weakness. We need to see our shadows. We need to look at our ignorance in the eyes so we can apply the antidote to it. So how do we see our weaknesses? Who helps us to do that? Our enemies, not our friends. That's why the Kadampa teachers used to say the enemies are the best friends. Because they are the ones that show us our weaknesses. They are the ones that when we relate to them, they will make our nervousness to come out, or the jealousy, or the envy, or whatever. So that's good. So at least we can see where to apply the antidote. We can see which are our weaknesses. So, if we truly have this attitude, then they become real friends. Instead, if we just, when we are in an adverse circumstance and we just get more and more angry, then it's not really good. But even the great practitioners, what's the way of following this practice? Once we have reached a level, let's say, of patience, That all the circumstances around us don't make us angry anymore. There's nothing, everything is, we never get angry. Then what shall we do? We shall go to look for more extreme situations to see if we really don't have anger, or if it's still there somewhere lying. This was what the great practitioners always used to do. They always used to put themselves into more and more extreme situations so that they could find and see the little poison that was hiding somewhere there, so that they could apply the antidote to it. Okay? We don't need to go to look for extreme situations. We all have many situations already. But that's precious opportunity. That's why we say transform the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment. The second way of doing that is the fact that no one can make us to experience a result for which we ourselves have not created the causes, positive or negative. No one can make us experience something positive or something negative if we did not create the causes to experience it. What others can do, they can be a condition through which the causes that we create manifest. So, when we experience an adverse circumstance, how to transform that another way? To see it, to acknowledge it, not as the cause of our suffering, but as a simple condition through which the causes that we created in the past are being manifested and are exhausting themselves. It's like, if I need to pay a loan, who's to blame that I need to pay the loan? The bank that is asking me, or the fact that one day I requested a loan? I think it's because one day I requested it, right? So what happened is that the bank requesting is just the condition to which I need to pay. But the real cause is the fact that one day I asked for the money. So, similar to that, instead of pointing the finger towards others and saying, you are the one to blame for my suffering, we just remember that the adverse circumstance that we're living, of body, speech, mind, and the environment and so on, is just the result of something negative that we have done in the past, which is manifesting now. So welcome, let it manifest. One bill less to pay. One bill less to pay tomorrow. It's like, there is a little bit extreme example about this, which is there was one monk, one elder monk in Tashilhunpo monastery, which was a disciple of Lama Ganchen previous life of Kachan Sampela. And then, so he had a lot of faith on Lama Ganchen when he was young in the monastery. So, but he told me that one day, this monk went to him and he asked, oh, please, could you please pray for me? I want to die with a very painful sickness, a very bad sickness. Magaji said, what? That's strange. I think at the time, Magaji was around 11, 12 years old. He said, what? Then he said, yes, please. I know why. So I said, okay, if that's what you want, you're really sure about it, I will make my prayers. And then Magaji went to live in Lhasa, and he came back after around 8, 10 years, something like this. And then when he came back, he went to see this monk. And there he was, very old, and with a very bad sickness. He had something in his throat. It was something when the throat was, there was a hole in his throat. He had a lot of difficulty for eating, and no special care there also. And a very difficulty to speak, and he was really in a difficult situation. But he was very happy. And then when he saw Lama Ganchen, he said, thank you very much. My wish was realized, was granted. What was his objective? He had a very simple logic. His point was, this body have already given everything that it could give. I am in the end of this life. I prefer to pay the debts with this body than carry them to my next life. As many debts I can pay with this body, the better. I leave them with the body. Then I will be reborn with more light, with less debts in the next life. So this sure is something that can be done only by someone that have really the preparation and the awareness and everything else to do that. Okay, but this is just making an example of the fact that when we experience the suffering, It's not the cause of our suffering, is not happening in that moment. That's just a condition through which something that we made in the past will manifest. This is not to purify the negativities, okay? When I talk about practices of purification, it means, following the metaphor, it's to be able not to pay the bill, the debt, without, it's like eliminating the debt without needing to pay for it. That's a purification. It's like an amnesty that we get. It's like, okay, we eliminate the causes without needing to experience the results. That's a purification. The point of this monk was simply, this body is very old, it's useless, now cannot do much. So I prefer that to pay whatever I can pay with this body, the better it is. So that's what his concept. But anyhow, we don't need to go to these extremes. Simply whenever we experience something difficult, something negative, instead of pointing the finger around and blaming others for our suffering, just remember that this is nothing more, nothing less than a condition through which the causes that we have created in the past are manifesting, and it means that we are making our negativities less and less, because we are paying for some debts that we have made in the past. Yeah. All the sickness is a result of our own negativities. How our negativities manifest? Through the sensation of suffering. Okay? The definition that is given to this body in philosophy is called Sakche Nyerlengi Pumbo. Sakpadan Cheba means impure. Nyerlen means result. Pumbo means heap, aggregate. So the name that is given to this body is the heap, the accumulation of the results of impurities. So it's through this body also that many of the negative actions that we do in the past manifest. Because through that we have the sensation of suffering, and that's how negative karma manifests. On the other side, when we have the sensation of pleasure, that's the result of a positive action. Okay. Yes? Sure. What happens is that to make a purification, this comes on the next part, which is say, apply the meditation immediately at every opportunity. We just go through it, and then it says, so we have these two ways of transforming the adverse circumstances. Then when it says here, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity, means apply exchanging oneself with others. At every opportunity means when we are happy and when we are sad, when we are in good situations and bad situations. This would be when we are, the example that we gave before, when we are in a good moment, we dedicate for others. When we are in a bad moment, we also dedicate to others. We open our heart in both cases. The supreme method is accompanied by the four practices. This supreme method for enlightenment needs to be upholded, accompanied by four practices. The first practice is accumulation of merit. So to do positive actions in order to accumulate positive causes for the results. The second method, the second practice is to purify our negativities. And here there are many practices of purification, but basically there must be the four opponent powers, which means we need to develop the four forces for purification. First thing, we need to develop an attitude which is opposite to the attitude that we had when we did a negative action. So instead of anger, we need to have love, for instance. Second, we need to openly admit our mistake as a mistake. Third, we need to develop a determination not to repeat again such action. And fourth, we need to generate positive energy in order to oppose to the negative one that we did. And this is a practice of purification through which, through the fourth power, when we oppose, we then make a positive action opposing to the negative one that we did, we will eliminate the negative cause that we have created, so we don't need to experience the result. That's a purification. So when we experience the results in our body or in whatever other condition, basically this is not purification, this is just paying the debt. We are paying for what we did in the past. Instead, when we make purification, we don't pay for the debts. We are able to eliminate it without paying. And then this we can do when we do retreats and when we do many practices like helping other people, making offerings, meditating on emptiness. So many ways how we can do that, but it's important to have the 4 powers. Sure. No, it is much better to purify. The case of that monk specifically, it was, I got at the very end of my life, I'm already weak, this body cannot do much anymore, so just take the opportunity to leave some garbage with it, so I don't take it with me. That was his concept. But generally speaking, we should never go through the process, I must suffer to eliminate my negative causes. We'll never go through that. Otherwise, we will make the malas with little metal points, and we'll go, let's make purification. That's not the point, okay? Then the other practices is, so we have accumulation of merit, purification. Then we have another 2 practices which are very much connected, which is the fact that we are all very easily influenced by others, by the environment and by the people and everyone that is around us. So there is also subtle types of influence and interferences, which, making it simple, we call it spirits. There are subtle forms of life that influences our mind. So what we do is that we make offering to them in order to make friendship and say, please, no, I do something for you, let's be friends, then let's not be in conflict. That's, for example, when we can do that when we eat, we leave some little bit of food out extra, and we dedicate this for these spirits. Or when we make the tsog offering and we have the tsogla, and we give to the spirits, this is a way of an act of generosity. There is one practice that many monks do called Torma Gyatsa, where every day you offer one little offering for many spirits. I don't know if anyone have ever seen this practice. It's like normally have little bowls of tsampa, and then need to put like in the water, like with a small spoon. Anyhow, practices of generosity to help these beings, so to create a positive condition with them. It's like if I go to live in a place where there are many people very poor and that may create little interferences in my life, like small crimes or things like this. What I do, I go around and I give them food, I help them, so they become their friends. So no more interferences. But then there are the big criminals, and even though I help them, they don't want my help. They really want to do something to me. Then I need to ask help of someone stronger. That's where comes the 4th practice, which is to rely on a Dharmapala, a Dharma protector, in order to help us to eliminate interferences on our path. Okay? Dharmapala means Dharma protectors. There are many Dharmapalas. There are many protectors. There can be, there is Mahakala, Pandelamo, Dorje Shukden, Kalarupa. There are many. Okay? Normally they are protectors, the Dharma protectors. No, because what happens is the following. In the moment of dying, the most important thing is to have a stable mind. This is very, very, very important, because what happens is that if our mind is unstable, then we can go really in a bad direction during death and the next rebirth. So that's why it's really important for us to have our mind going in the right direction. The body can happen anything. We are dying, the body is just going. But the mind should be healthy and stable. This is the most important. Point number 4. Menga nimbo durdupa tomga dagdan jarwarcha tekchen poe damgani tomga ni cholamche. The integrated practice of a single lifetime. In brief, the essence of the instruction is to train in the 5 powers. The 5 powers themselves are the great vehicles precept on the transference of consciousness. Cultivate this path of practice. So, I wanted to go a little bit quickly, but it's not possible to read this and not explain what are the 5 powers. Okay, so what are the 5 powers basically? Here we have the 5 powers into 2 contexts, which is at the moment during the lifetime and as a preparation for our death. Both of them are very important. Actually, also the one in relation to death, it's important since this very right moment. It's not something that we can wait one day to start. Okay, so here the 5 powers are the following. The first set of 5 is the power of intention, the power of familiarization, the power of the white seed of virtue, the power of opposition, and the power of prayer. These are the 5 powers. The name are the same during life and in relation to death. So, the first 5. The power of intention is the intention never to be taken by our defilements such as anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, attachment, selfishness. The intention is related to the present moment. I will not let myself be taken by these emotions. Even if they come, I don't follow. There they are, I look at them, but I don't follow them. That's the power of intention. Second is the power of familiarization, kompeto. Is constantly to practice the mind training of exchanging oneself with others, observing one's own mind stream, seeing the situations and as an opportunity of growth, and so on. This is the power of familiarization. The more we do, the easier it becomes. Third, the power of virtue is to accumulate merits. Mostly we do this by generosity and morality. Generosity is by giving materially, by giving spiritually, by giving materially, by giving love, by giving protection, and by giving the Dharma, which is giving spiritually. These are the 4 types of giving. Then when we are a good example for other people, this is also a way of accumulating merits. So any positive interdependence we create is a way of accumulating merits. And most of all, it's important the motivation that we have behind together with it. The power of virtue. Then there's the power of opposition, which is to oppose constantly selfishness. To remember that selfishness is the main cause of our suffering, and we say, I'm not following it. And we oppose ourselves to selfishness. That's the power of opposition. Then we have the last power, which is the power of prayer, which is to direct our mind to the future, saying, I never want to be separated from Bodhichitta, from an inner state of love, compassion, and wisdom. May I always be within that state. So we direct our mind for the future. Okay? These are the 5 powers during lifetime. The same 5 powers during death, because as the text says here, the 5 powers themselves are the great vehicles, the Mahayana, precept on the transference of consciousness. Transference of consciousness means poa in Tibetan, which it means to transfer ourselves for a better rebirth. So if we follow the 5 powers, if we practice the 5 powers, we can assure ourselves to have a good rebirth. So what are the 5 powers relating to death? We have, first of all, there is the power of virtue, then the power of intention, power of opposition, power of prayer, and power of familiarization. The power of virtue, it means not to be attached to the material things and to use the material things in a positive way. It's like material things are very interesting because on one side they have no power at all, no meaning. Like I can accumulate as much as I want. In the moment of death, I cannot take anything with me. But on the other side, if I give them a good direction, they will continue to generate benefit. If I put one brick in the construction of a hospital or in the construction of a temple, if 100 years after someone come to that temple and receive benefit, I am part of the cause, right? So I will receive results myself also. So it's rather better to offer people, let's say to offer the kitchen than to buy the food. it's better to use the resources on something that will generate positive energy on a long term than something that will generate positive energy and finish there. So this is in order to do something that would constantly generate positive energy. This is something that is important also. So there are two ways of doing this. One way is before we die, we give everything we have to our family, to our friends, to wherever we want to donate it to things that we know that generate positive energy. Okay? This is one way. The other way is we simply make our own will. And that's a way how we can already be on forehand prepare ourselves for the death. I advise everyone to do your own will. It doesn't matter how old you are. Make your will. If you want to change it at any moment, change it again. But make something that we use the things that we have accumulated materially for something positive, something that will generate positive energy. Another example is if I write a poem, or if I write a book, I make a movie, whatever. 100 years later, someone reads that book and receives a benefit, like how we are reading now the text of Geshe Chekawa, almost 1,000 years later, and we receive benefit. He is receiving benefit from that, wherever he is, because he's part of the cause. Okay, similar that is for us also. Remember, the opposite also works. If we do something negative, it goes on after. So it's important how we direct. So, but the main point here is the material things. We should relate to the material things as a function, not as a goal, as a tool, not as a goal. Which means, if I have the cup, why do I have the cup? Because it serves me for something. I need to drink water, tea, and I use the cup. I like to have a beautiful cup because it makes me happy. Or whatever reason, okay? More silly reason or more profound reasons. But we need to have a function for it. The problem is that when we accumulate things simply to accumulate them, then it's really a problem. Okay? So this is the first power, the power of virtue. Then we have the second power, which is the power of intention, which is to have not to give up the attachment on our body and to be able to imagine ourselves in another body, which means to direct our mind to a next rebirth. That's the power of intention. In the moment of death, the most gross obstacle is attachment to material things. Then is the attachment to the body. Okay? The third power is the power of opposition, which is we need to oppose ourselves to mental defilements, anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, and so on. It doesn't matter what happens, it shall not be a reason for me to get angry, for example. Because there is nothing worse in the moment of our death than dying angry. So I would rather have a nice laughter, but I would not get angry. It doesn't matter what happened, it's not a reason for me to be angry. How can I assure myself that this will be done when I will not die in this way? By assuring myself that I take away the habit of getting angry. That's the only way. Okay? Then the fourth power is the power of prayer, in which we dedicate, may I never be separated from a state of peace, joy, satisfaction, wisdom. We direct our mind to that. And the fifth power, the power of familiarization, is we meditate and we familiarize our mind with bodhicitta, with love and compassion towards others. If we are able to practice these 5 powers, then we can assure ourselves to have a good rebirth. But we cannot wait to be in the bed before dying, like sick in the hospital, to start practicing it. We need to start right now. Start with the small things. Start with the first, which is the easiest. Okay? There is a very simple rule that we can try to apply. We can start not too hard on oneself, but go home, look at something and ask, what's the use of it? You take the object and you ask, okay, does it have a function? For me? No. Why do I have it? Only to have it. So, 3 possibilities. Or I give, or I sell, or I throw. Because when we start keeping things just to keep them, who knows, one day may be useful. then what happens is that we start accumulating and accumulating and accumulating, and it somehow is some stuck energy that remains there also. It's really not good. It's much better to make things move, Things are there to have a function, so let's make in a way that someone will use it. We give away, we give new life for it somehow. So this is small advice, like if there is something that we see that is not being there, we can make it move. Don't get stuck with it, because as it said in Tibetan, Mila Gyugo Gyuladak Pogo, people need things need owners. Someone to take care of it. The more things we have, the more space these things takes in our mind to keep them. On the other side, I always remember there is an old lady in Brazil that I really respect her very much, and a very generous woman. I like her very much. I have even other friends which are on their 40s and 50s that when they look to her, they say, I want to be like you when I grow up. No, they joke. But it's like really a wonderful woman. And one day after these teachings, she came to me one day and she said, oh, Lama, I have a problem. I said, tell me. Yeah, most of the things she's already given up. She make her will, very generous, helping everyone around, really very generous way. But she said, but there is one point I cannot let go. I have my jewels. She said, she has a beautiful collection of jewels. And she said, the jewels, I could sell them and use the money for something much better, but I like opening the jewels once a week. I never wear them really, but I open the jewels once a week. I look at them, and then I remember my son that gave me one jewel that already died. I remember the husband that is not there. I remember the travel that I went to that place where I bought this jewel and this and that. So brings memories. And I told her, this means they have functions. This is a clear function. It's to remember you of positive moments that gives you joy. That's wonderful. To remind you of this positive moment. So this is really wonderful. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay? Just to say, there are objects that have more subtle functions. Doesn't need to be necessarily a gross function. But when something has no function at all, it's just making dust and occupying space. It doesn't matter what it is, how precious it may be. If it's precious, sell it. At least put it for sale. Already one step. No? But it's like, this is my own personal point of view. Okay? Anyhow, the 5 powers is something that we need to apply in our life in order to make things to move on. Let's go on. Chokun gomba chikdu du wangbo nikyan tso song. Yede bashi guntu tem changwet seni lokpa yin. Jongta chenbo ngade yin. Yinkyang tubna jumpa yin. The measure of having trained the mind. Integrate all the teachings into one thought. It means it doesn't matter what you do. If you practice Guya Samaja, if you do Shine, if you do whatever practice you do, Lam Lamrim, or meditate on emptiness, it doesn't matter. It integrates everything into one practice. Eliminates selfishness. Generate Bodhichitta, relative and absolute for the benefit of all sentient beings. Everything is part of a same practice. It's not, oh, here I do one practice for this, there I do for that. Everything that we do is part of one practice. It's one path that we follow. It doesn't matter what we are doing. Primary importance should be given to the 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses are ourselves and others. We need to listen to others, comments on how we behave, what we do, how is our attitude. We need to listen to them, take into consideration what they say, and at the same time we need to take consideration into how we see ourselves, have our own judgment on ourselves. So we need to take both into consideration. Constantly cultivate only a peaceful mind. When you are able to constantly cultivate only a peaceful mind, this means your training process is going well. If before you would get nervous and now you don't get nervous anymore, and if before your mind will not be so peaceful and now you are able to be more peaceful, this means you are training yourself in the right way. The measure of a trained mind is that it has turned away. It means it has turned away, which means have swapped, shifted, inverted an attitude, which means First, I would get angry when people would say that I have a big nose. Now I laugh and I make no problem about it. It's an inversion, it's a change of behavior. Okay? Before I would become, when I see someone suffering, I would rejoice about it. Now I wish them to be free from that suffering. This is just to make whatever example, okay? But it's like, when we see that where we used to get angry, we don't get angry anymore. Where we used to feel guilty, we don't feel guilty anymore. Where now we are able to rejoice or whatever. When we change our attitude, this is the signs that we are training our mind in the correct way. These are the true realizations. When we talk about realizations is not like one day we wake up and we start seeing the Buddhas flying in all directions or whatever, Could even happen this. It's wonderful, but that's not what we look for. When we talk about realizations, it's also like learning how to fly. This is called mundane realizations. Being able to levitate. What's the point of being able to levitate? I'm sorry. Actually, the point is that in order to be able to levitate, it means having control over one's own energy, winds, and so on, which is very useful for another thing. But levitation is just a side effect. Okay? But if the object is learning how to levitate, and then, okay, you put a lot of effort, years of meditation to be able to levitate. Then there we are levitating 1 meter high. And so what? And now what? It becomes an object of pride. I can show off, I can levitate. Maybe I may run a little show. And then what else can I do with that? Okay? If I'm not talking, there are practices where you need to learn how to deal and control the subtle winds in order to bring the mind to subtle states of consciousness, and levitation is just a part of it. This is another thing. But if the object is levitating, then what? Learning to be able not to eat. There are practices that to train ourselves not to eat and so on. Okay, if you go to a place where there is famine, fine, but we have plenty of food, so what's the problem? Or having clairvoyance, that we can read other people's mind. Better not. If it's tiring enough to listen to people, imagine if we can need to listen to them without listening, I think, personally, I would not like it. Okay? So, I was even thinking, the last time I was in China, I was in the train, and it was so nice because people talking and you don't understand anything they're saying. It's so relaxing. Because the mind don't get busy with other things. So imagine if you can listen to their thoughts. Wow, then don't eat. So imagine you put a lot of effort, years, and finally you are able to listen to the thoughts of people, and then they are not nice, because I don't think there are many nice thoughts around. Most of the thoughts is like repetition of the same thing. Another thing, if you listen to a thought of one person one time, 99% of the other thoughts you already know. This is another thing. Most of us, it's quite shocking, but this is scientific research. It says that 99% of our thoughts are repetition of the previous thoughts. So what's the point of listening to people's thoughts, no? Okay, it's enough to have ours. So what I want to say is that, okay, mundane realizations. Then after what? Then we die, and we don't know how to levitate when we are a little baby. I need to learn everything again. Instead, if we put our effort, like one time, one man came to Lama Ganchen, it's a true story, and he asked, I'd like to learn how to levitate. Lama Ganchen said, yes, it's possible, but you put a lot of effort for years and years and years, and after, let's say, you're able to levitate for 5 meters. And so what? Nowadays you have elevators and planes. Instead, put your energy to develop love, compassion, wisdom. This is what really makes a difference. That's where we need to put our energy. Changing our behavior, changing our inner habits. These are the true realizations that we now need to look for. Okay? Don't need to, if we have beautiful visions, and okay, nice, but that's not what we're looking for. Okay? We need to change our behavior. That's the main thing. So there are 5 great marks of a trained mind. The 5 great marks are great patience, which means not to react with violence and aggressività and aggression. towards the objects that makes us suffer. Whenever we are suffering, we do not react with violence and aggression towards it. That's great patience. Then we have a great mind, which is the mind of altruism, love, and compassion. Great conduct, which means to have a conduct of body, speech, and mind, which is in accordance with the Dharma, virtuous conduct. To have a great, let's say, morality, which is to abandon and avoid even the slightest of all of negative actions. Then we have the great yoga, or the great action, which means to do everything we do with the mind of Bodhichitta. These are the 5 signs of a trained mind. The trained mind retains control even when distracted. So let's say if we are training our mind in being patient, and then later we are able to be patient even when we are distracted, that means we have completed our training. No? In other words, we said before, it's better to be an artificial altruistic than a natural selfish. When we become a natural altruistic, that means we have completed our process of training. Okay? When it comes spontaneously, that's when we complete the process of our own training. Okay? So this is this part. Now we go on, and we will read briefly. Then tomorrow we'll have again the opportunity to go through this with more calm. I will not be here, but Francesco will be guiding all of you together. Kindly, I requested him to do that. Originally, I was leaving on Monday, but then because there is the special ceremony in Thailand together with Rinpoche, the Dharmakaya, we needed to change everyone the ticket to go one day before, so that's why I need to leave tomorrow morning. But I preferred not to cancel this today at least, okay? Because better one day instead of none. That's my thought. So now we go briefly through point number 6, commitments for the mind training, which means if we really want to train our mind, we must keep these commitments. And I really believe these are one of the most suitable commitments for our times and the conditions through which we live, okay? Chitun sumla tak tulab. Always train in the 3 general points. In the original text, it's only said, only train in the 3 general points. Then in the translation, we have the actual points are there, which are, number 1, don't go against the mind training you promised to observe. That's quite obvious. Which means don't put the practice of Lojong, of training the mind, just as something, okay, I train my mind, and after you forget about it. No. Be serious about your commitment. Second, don't be reckless in your practice, which means don't think you are a superhero. Now because I practice Lojong, I can do anything, so I will go to the place where there are different, sicknesses that are infectious diseases, and nothing will happen to me. Infectious disease, remember, we have limits, and we need to respect our own limits. Okay? Don't be partial. Which means practice one day, the other day don't practice. We need to have constancy in our practice. Then, where we are, 1 second, here. Now in Tibetan. Dumba gyurla rangsur sha. Transform your attitude but maintain your natural behavior. Change your inner attitude from selfish to altruistic. Generate more patience and so on. But you don't need to show outside, I am a Lojong practitioner. You don't need to show off what you are doing inside. You need to go within your mind. It doesn't need to manifest outside. Okay? Then inevitably, when we change inside, there will be change outside. But that's an effect. We don't do it for that reason. Okay? So we don't need a special haircut or special clothes or to wear special objects. We go around with the mala showing that we are a practitioner, or we start using different words in our daily life. Now I am a Lojong practitioner. I cannot say this. I cannot do that. No, it's something that it should be secret within ourselves. Okay? Then, don't speak of others' incomplete qualities. Don't speak of others' incomplete qualities. Do not criticize others. And it goes together with the next one. Shencho kaya misamo. Don't concern yourself with others' business. It's actually quite simple, right? Our life is very, very precious. We don't have much time, not much space. Why should we use all our inner space concerning what the other person did and what he's doing, who is his girlfriend or boyfriend, or what he's doing this? And who cares? I'm sorry, I love you, but what you do in your personal life really doesn't matter to me. In the sense, like, if you have a sickness, if you have a problem, if you need help, if you need prayers, I'm happy to do. But I'm not going to fill up my whole space with what you are doing, with what you are not doing, and this and that. Also because most of us do more or less the same thing. Huh? So there's no much point on filling up ourselves with this. And the more we speak about, the more it takes space in our lives. So don't criticize others. Don't concern yourself with other people's business. Okay? If there is someone that is sick and we go to help, yes, we need to be concerned about their needs. This is one thing. We tend to do the opposite. We tend to be concerned about their life just as gossiping, but when they really are in need, we are not concerned about it. Okay? We need to do the other way around. We need to be concerned about people for their needs and to help them. But we don't need to fill up our mind with what they are doing, with judgments. Okay? Basically, that's quite simple and direct, actually. Shincho kayamisamo. Nyomon kanchen nguen la jang. Train to counter whichever disturbing emotion is greatest. Which means, whatever is the negative emotion that is stronger, that's the one that we need to deal first. Okay? Next. Give up every hope of reward. Whatever we do for what we are doing. We are not doing it because we want money, because we want recognition, because we want attention, because we want affection. We do what we do for the benefits of what we are doing, because we really believe in what we do, not because we want something back. Avoid poisonous food. Avoid poisonous food means food is something that is supposed to nourish us. If there is poison in it, it will harm us. Similar to that, spiritual practices such as meditation or reciting mantras or doing many things are supposed to nourish our spiritual path. But if it is poisoned by our selfishness, it will harm us. If it becomes an object of pride, I am a great practitioner of this or of that, blah, 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 then it becomes something poisonous. It's not being of benefit for us, it's actually harming us instead. Don't maintain misplaced loyalty, which means to have loyalty with our bad habits. We have a bad habit, we just keep it there. Oh, I'm loyal to my bad habit, I'm not letting it go. Don't do that. Don't make sarcastic remarks. Don't say things in order to put other people down. Basically, it's that. Shange me good, tell me good, nela me up. Don't make sarcastic remarks. Don't lie in ambush. Don't wait the right moment to harm someone. Oh, you have said that thing to me I didn't like. I'm going to wait the right moment where you are in public in front of everyone in order to say that to you. So then you will see how painful it is, or anything like that. Don't do that. Don't strike at the vital point. Like when people fight, what's the most natural thing to see? Where is the most weak point? That's where people go to hit. Don't do that. Don't hit at the vital point. Don't hit at the weak point of anyone. Don't burden an ox with the load of a zo. The zo is a bigger animal. The ox is a smaller one. You don't take the burden of a zo and put on an ox, which means be responsible of your responsibilities. Don't put them on top of someone else. Like if there is a mistake, who is responsible? I am responsible. I did a mistake. I'm not putting it on top of anyone. I'm not saying, oh, I don't know what happened. Someone else will pay the bill. No. I did a mistake. I will pay for the consequences. Yeah. Don't pass the buck. Don't put on someone else. And on the other side also, if there is a responsibility, it's mine. I don't need to throw it on someone else. Okay? Be responsible for yourself.
Why have they taken two such different animals? Why is one
because the Zo is much more powerful than the ox, so you should not take the load that is supposed to be on a Zo. These Tibetans were nomads, no?
So which one are we, the Zo or the ox?
Huh?
I know, I mean the ox or the Zo.
Very, very simple thing. We should not take the load, which is our load, which is the Zo, and we should not put that on someone else, which is an ox. Okay?
So why is the other person always less strong than we are?
No, it's not that the other person is less stronger than we are. It's simply, this is just a metaphor to say that we should not put something in someone that should not be in that person.
Because I thought it meant that we should have taken ourselves.
No, it doesn't mean that. It means we should not put into someone that which is not supposed to be given to that person. Okay? Don't abuse the practice. Don't abuse the practice means don't use the practice of Lojong in order to make money, to become more famous, or anything like that. Don't sprint to win the race. Don't try to be the first of the class where I am the best Lojong practitioner. I will eliminate selfishness first. Don't need to be the first of the class. Just follow your practice. Just go on your way. Okay? Don't turn gods into devils. Don't turn the God into devil, actually. Which means the God is the one that is highest. The devil is the one that is lowest. So don't make the highest thing, that is the practice of mind transformation, into something that will make your own selfishness to grow more and more. So be careful that instead of practicing the training of the mind, to train our mind to be less selfish, it makes you more selfish. Be careful for that not to happen. Don't seek others' misery as a mean to happiness. One clear example of that after what I explained in Italian, is that any action that we do, inevitably someone will be unhappy. But it's a big difference that if someone becomes upset because I am eating, I cannot do much about that. But it's different that in order for me to eat, I need to take the food out of you. If I need to take your food away and you will be hungry because I am taking your food away, then I am seeking other people's misery as a means for my happiness. If I am just eating my food and you are upset for that, I am sorry, but I have nothing to do with that. Okay? Well, now we go quickly the precepts. We just read them briefly, okay? So just the last conclusion briefly. As it goes, we go through the precepts of mind training, and it says, one second. Neljur tamje chigi cha longo tamje chigi cha tokta nila chawani nibo kanjo sobarcha nibo sogdan de la song kawa sumla labracha gyuni tsowo nyam nam sumlang nyampa meba nam sum gom drelme sumda demparcha yula chome daktu jang kyabdan tingjo kunla che kolwa namla taktu gom ken shen dagla tome cha tare tsowo nyam sumlang kolome cha rejo me cha dojo tu jang tokcho nigi tawar cha yu magom kolo ma de yu tsamba mi cha urche mi des. Every yoga should be performed as one. Do every action you do as part of the same spiritual path. All errors are to be amended by one mean, the practice of Lojong. Anything you do, always with the practice of Lojong, you should deal with this situation. There are two activities, at the beginning and at the end. In the beginning of every action, generate the motivation. At the end of every action, dedicate your merits. Okay. Whichever occurs, be patient with both. Okay? When you have good things or bad things, be patient with both. Don't get too much agitated. Don't be taken by positive or negative. Keep your balance. Guard both at the cost of your life. Your commitments. To keep the commitments of the mind training and the general commitments, keep them at the cost of your own life. Train in the three difficulties. The first difficulty, to recognize one's own mental defilements. Second difficulty, not to be able not to follow the mental defilements. Third difficulty, to give continuity to the second. The first one is when we are able to see that anger is appearing, but we are still not able to keep it. We just follow anger, but we see it. Second level of difficulty is we see that the anger is coming, but it's like keeping the reins of a horse, and we are able to keep it. So we do not follow anger. The third difficulty is to give continuity to the second, so that we can overcome it completely. Sometimes people come to me and say, "Oh, Lama, now I can see my anger, but I cannot do anything about it." You are in the first difficulty. After you get to the second, no? It's like it's not right away. Seek for the three principal causes. The three principal causes that we need to cultivate is to have a good spiritual guide, to have will to practice, intention, a mind that is adapted for the practice, and to have the minimum material condition for our life. Don't let the three factors weaken. The three factors that we should not let weaken is respect and gratitude for our gurus, our masters, joy and pleasure in transforming the mind, and the awareness of our three doors, which is body, speech, and mind. Never be parted from the three possessions. The three possessions means body, speech, a virtuous body, speech, and mind. Never let your body, speech, and mind be separated from a virtuous way of acting. Train constantly without partiality. You need to train constantly, like not one day I do, another day I don't do, maybe I start, I don't go. No, we need to have constancy in our practice of Lojong. Value an encompassing and far-reaching practice. We need to value a practice that is vast, which means it reaches every aspect of our life, and at the same time is deep, which is not just superficial, it's from the depths of our heart. Train consistently to deal with difficult situations. How we train to deal with difficult situations? We need to start the practice of Lojong with the 5 situations, which is, it's not like I practice Lojong with those that are nice to me. We need to start practicing with the people that we live with, our enemies, people that we don't get along at all, those that we have benefited but in turn have harmed us, those that are karmically, antipatico, unpleasant, that karmically we don't like them, no specific reason, but we simply don't like them. And the 4th is our family members, 5th one. So these are those with whom we should start practicing. Then after comes the rest of sentient beings. But we should start practicing Lojong with this. Don't rely on other conditions. Don't wait, one day when I will have enough money and food, then I will practice Lojong. No. At every moment is a good moment to practice mind training. Engage in the principal practices right now, which means there are many things that we need to do in this life. We need to make money, we need to work, we need to take care of our health, we need to keep the relations with other people, but don't put these things before the practice of Lojong. This shouldn't be an excuse in order to not to practice. It should be our priority right now. Don't apply a wrong understanding, such as having compassion for Dharma practitioners, having pleasure in mundane things and not having pleasure in spiritual things, having patience to deal with mundane difficulties and not having patience with our own spiritual practice, rejoicing for the negative things instead of rejoicing for the positive. Don't have these types of wrong understanding. Don't be sporadic, a lot of energy, then after not energy at all. Constancy. Practice unflinchingly. Have faith. Be stable. Have faith. Go with all your energy in what you do. Release investigation and analysis. Don't follow things just because you believe, like blind faith. Understand. Go through understanding. Analysis is important to understand and make that understanding yours, not just because someone told it. Don't be boastful. Don't be short-tempered. Don't make a short-lived attempt. Don't expect gratitude. Okay? I think this is quite clear. The conclusion is, as Geshe Chekawa says, Rangi möba mawe gyu dunge tamnge kesene dalzin duwe damga shutani shiami kyoto. This is a conclusion, that a quotation from Geshe Chekawa, who had an experience of the awakening mind. My manifold aspirations have given rise to humiliating criticism and suffering. Have many mundane aspirations, and finally what I get, people criticize me, I get humiliated, I get suffering, difficulties, and so on and so on. Instead, but having received instructions for taming the misconception of self, having receiving instructions of taming my selfishness and ignorance, even if I have to die, no, even if I die, I have to die, there is not even if I have to die. Even if I die, I have no regrets. Which means if I have to die now, I have no regrets. I would not expect nothing more than this in life. That's wonderful. Okay? So, the conclusion here is, I'm happy that we could go through the whole text without leaving holes, even though we went a little bit quickly through it. Went a little bit above time, but we were able at least to conclude this part. It's not a difficult practice from the point of view of understanding conceptually. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's not easy. But we can start on our own size, at our own level. Small things. That's where the difference happens. It's one small step after the other, then we can make the great difference. Okay? So take this as something precious that you have received. I have received these teachings from my masters, that have received from their masters, that go directly to Geshe Chekawa, that goes directly to Atisha, and like this it goes back up to Buddha Shakyamuni. So this is something very precious. What we have written is just one instruction, it's just like a guideline. The true practice is in our heart, in our mind, in our actions. That's where we need to do it. So please, the important thing is that we need to be sincere in our practice and put effort. Is it easy? No. It's like walking against the current. But it's much better to walk against the current than to follow a current that just brings more suffering. Okay? So this is all for today. I'm sure we'll have other opportunities to go through these teachings with much more time and calm. Then we can go into every point and explain them and go through. So for me today was just an introduction to the 7 points. Anyhow, tomorrow there is another day to review it together with Francesco. I'm very happy for that. Okay. See. Also, for these teachings, anyone who would be interested to have more details, there is 5 days teachings on this subject in English that we have in SoundCloud that you can listen to it also. Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle cholchur gepadang losan tempe drume sasumgi drowe musel tatu ne gyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kunyan delekshin Nyensen takto delekpe koncho sumge jingelo koncho sumge ngodrupso koncho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Tashidele.